Thank you everyone for coming. I have 4 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. This panel is Games of War and Power, and our first speaker is Chandler Zausner, presenting his paper, Cosplay as Tribal Ritual, Transmedial Archetypes as Avatar and Shaman.
Good afternoon. My name is Chandler Zausner, and I will be presenting my research on Cosplay as Tribal Ritual, Transmedial Archetypes as Avatar and Shaman. This title includes 2 very modern words and 2 very ancient words. Their inclusion represents the connection of myth and folklore across generations and centuries. My area of study explores the timeless universal attraction to myth as experienced in a modern-day venue. My research asks if online communities use tribal gatherings as a method of socialization to experience and express their emotional transformations by engaging in ritual. My specific study involves the role that costume players perform in shaping the experience for themselves and the larger community. Nobuyuki Takahashi, a Japanese journalist reporting for Worldcon in 1984 in Los Angeles, first coined the word cosplay, a combination of the words costume and play. It is a common misconception that because the term originated in Japan that the custom did as well. In fact, the first hall costume was observed at the 1939 Worldcon. Today, anime conventions are enhanced by the presence of large numbers of cosplayers and their interaction with other attendees. These American conventions have been my ethnographic base over the past year. Although Avatar is a popular term in modern gaming, its Sanskrit root comes from Hinduism, referring to incarnation and descent. Paramahamsa Yogananda explained that an avatar is a soul that manifests to help others as an inspiration. It is this dynamic between avatar and acolyte that may be the underlying motivation for the phenomenon that I have observed. The role of shaman is to communicate with the spirit world through vision, quest, and enter the supernatural realm to search for answers. A shaman is a bridge between worlds and a legendary and symbolic character. Cosplay illustrates the pan-religious story elements that pervade modern anime. My research interviews investigate the player's emotional attachment to his or her chosen portrayal and enactment, as well as the audience's response to encountering a physical manifestation of a fabled character. Transmedial or multi-platform storytelling occurs across multiple delivery platforms and geographical and cultural boundaries. Audience participation, interaction, and collaboration enhance and expand on the original story. My dataset explores the demographic composition and use of patterns in this modern-day story circle, a gathering that begins in the cyber world and coalesces into a physical nexus for brief moments at a time. Anime conventions fit all the parameters for ritual. According to Schultz and Levenda, a ritual must be a repetitive social practice set off from the routines of daily life, be encoded in myth, and follow a recognizable ritual schema. Even rituals that are not religious in nature can have specific concepts and practices rooted in myths and mores. Lily Alexander points out that ritual was the media of the past, a mediator between people and their spirits or gods, with the capacity to communicate on a larger scale through performance, dance, or storytelling. All these elements are present in the masquerade, mock battles, ceremony, and veneration of individual interpreters to be found at any anime convention. Carl Jung identified and codified literary archetypes in the undiscovered self. He recognized the universal patterns to be found in story and mythology across cultural boundaries and theorized that the human mind shares a collective unconscious with others as a universal primal memory. Patricia Keats describes the use of the mask as a mediator between the conscious and unconscious worlds of self, extending Jung's archetypes into therapeutic practice. In A Hero with a Thousand Faces, Joseph Campbell correlated Jung's archetypes and their trials and tribulations to multiple mythologies throughout human history. Both Jung's archetypes and the stages of Campbell's hero's journey are found in the vast majority of anime. These archetypes present a compelling and fertile inspiration for character interpretation by cosplayers. All All cosplay grows from an origin story, usually a fable that begins as a Japanese manga or graphic novel, which may later be animated. Eric Davis describes the shamanistic tropes so often found in anime: astral flight, travel to the underworld, supernatural weapons, and the shamanic power of animal transformation. The desire to walk between the material and spiritual planes is a constant theme in anime. This universal longing drives both cosplay interpreters and their audiences. The collective imagination naturally intertwines the original story with fan fiction extensions. Ian Connery, in the Soul of Anime, calls attention to a convention of the graphic novel that liberates performance and interpretation known as the gutter. Because there are leaps of time between the frames, a blank space must be filled up by the audience. When these stories are brought to the screen as anime, the technique of temporal ellipsis maintains the virtual gutter. This open space is where cosplayers create their original performance. The convention attendees that engage with these avatars are intrigued to observe known and imagined scenarios as an extension of their own world-building interaction with the original source material. Over 250,000 Americans attended the top 10 regional expositions in 2014. Large regional cons such as Anime Expo in San Diego and Anime Boston draw over 60,000 attendees during a 3 or 4 day period. Anime convention enthusiasts attend panels, buy merchandise, screen premieres, meet creative talent, and interact with cosplayers. The sheer volume of congregation marks these gatherings as sites worthy of anthropological investigation. To get a better grasp of the inspiration for American cosplay, I conducted ethnographic research at anime cons throughout the United States. My research includes over 100 camera interviews, 500 demographic surveys, film interactions between cosplayers and civilians, 3 file boxes of related inferior, a comparative literature review of 40 top anime titles by Archetypes, and a notebook of functional behavioral observations. My methodology was a mix of passive observation and participation on alternative days. All surveys were conducted either in person at various conventions or were online submissions solicited from attendees at those conventions. All interviews were conducted as a fellow cosplayer, which resulted in remarkably candid and personal disclosures. For purposes of this investigation, I specifically excluded professional cosplayers and competitive craft actors because these segments are commerce-driven and have a different set of motivators. Demographics were as predicted in my hypothesis: young, educated, primarily male, and non-Asian anime fans. Only 10% of respondents were over 30, and 64% were either college or high school students. 60% were male, and 78% were non-Asian. Surprisingly, 82% first discovered anime through cartoons on TV. Fans rate storyline and plot as their favorite element, followed by characters and animation style. 34% are interested primarily in the hero's humble origins backstory, while 28% say they enjoy the epic battles. Top archetypes that fans are drawn to include the tortured hero, the anti-hero, and the strong female lead. Favorite shows include Naruto, Attack on Titan, Fullmetal Alchemist, and Dragon Ball Z. Among the 40 franchises analyzed and polled, there's a direct correlation between the volume of archetypes represented and popularity. What makes my research unique and compelling is that it contains a why question. Because my research subjects were comfortable and forthcoming, there's a qualitative and passionate response that can be quantified. The vast majority of subjects warm quickly and welcome the opportunity to express their feelings. Nowhere is this more evident than the reasons that interviewees gave for their choice of archetype and character. Rather than explain further, I'd like to end by sharing a brief contemplation of some of the true heroes of cosplay.
It was kind of cool to get away from like all the normalness and to jump into a different world.
When you're in a costume, you're supposed to be that character. It defeats the purpose of being cosplaying if you're not going to be your character. And I'm nutty, Deadpool, crazy.
And then you're here and it's like oh my god, I'm the king.
I think the way he's very clever and the way he works with what he has, he has I would say part-time job as a phantom thief. So he's very mischievous.
He's actually trying to avenge his father's death.
Villains aren't that popular when it comes to cosplaying. Black Lady makes you feel sexy.
He's kind of a grumpy little sourpuss.
He's a total badass. He's the total puppet master.
He was a solo player that found someone else.
He's strong, he's very protective of his students.
Wearing this character, suddenly I'm allowed to be as wild and out as I want to be.
In the game, she's a lot more comfortable and she's a lot more free.
Kind of like an idol because she's really nice to everybody.
It's always fun when you're having the opportunity to see people who understand you on the same level.
Being able to dress up and be somebody else for a weekend.
When you put on your cosplay, you get into your character. It's a new experience. It's very exciting.
I think it's fascinating being able to dress up as someone else and be able to be a different persona for a little while.
It lets me come out of my shell, do things that I normally wouldn't do.
When you are in costume, you're not yourself, you're the character.
It's kind of like a vacation from real life.
Being able to cosplay and be somebody different for a weekend or for a couple of days is just such a wonderful thing for me.
It's kind of epic to wear a cape around. And it just makes me really, really happy, so.
It's an awesome way to meet people. It's a way to feel like, I connect with people, and it's just fun. Everybody's really kind to each other. So it's a lot different from, being out there.
I cosplay because it's the one time I feel most like myself. And I love anime because it's so creative and it makes me think that it gives me hope.
Thank you very much.